Welcome to Revolutionize Your Marketing, Your Business, Your Life. And I'm here today with Kate Vandervoort. Vandervoort. Oh my gosh. I'll forget it. I'll let you say it. But super excited. I first heard Kate on the AI Explored podcast, and it was so packed with such good information. I was taking notes furiously. And I'm so very grateful that you had the time to come on my podcast to share with my audience all the wonderful things that you're doing with AI. But before we get started, if you could just give my audience a little bit about who you are and what you do.
Absolutely. Thanks so much for having me. It's always a nice chuckle listening to an American try and say a Dutch name in an Australian accent. But you did well. You did well. Kate Vandervoort. So, yes, it's great to be here. Thank you for having me. So just the brief, I guess, version of how I've gotten to where I am. I started out at uni doing a social work degree because I thought I knew I wanted to help people, and social work seemed like a good way to do that. And for about 10 years, I tried to work within the systems that exist around that, and pretty quickly figured out that I'm an innovator. I'm really good at adopting things early, seeing better, faster, more efficient ways of doing things. And a lot of systems don't really like those of us that have that approach. We sometimes rock the boat. And so I realized pretty quickly that working within the system was probably not where I was going to feel the most joy or where I was going to add the most value. So about 15 years ago, I started my company, Social Mediology, right back at the beginning of social media. And companies were sort of, social media was this big black hole that no one really knew what it meant for marketing,
Gosh.
what it meant for how we connect with our customers. And again, really early on, I saw just what kind of a shift that was going to make in marketing. And I'd moved out of social work and into business development and marketing already. Really early, I started helping companies and businesses use social media to connect with their customers in more meaningful ways, to grow and activate customer and cause communities. And I loved that. I found my happy spot where I was able to really
Aw.
use that intersection between technology and humanity to deepen those relationships. And then
Yes.
COVID hit. That changed a lot in our business. A lot of our large corporate clients decided that community and organic content was a bit of a luxury at that time. So I was kind of left in a place of not really being sure what was next for me career-wise, if I'm being honest.
Hmm.
And then I started seeing platforms like Jasper.ai and Copy.
Yes.
And early on used those in our business and immediately saw how it was going to change the work that we were doing and how we were working with clients. And then, of course, ChatGPT came along, and
I know.
being the early adopter that I am, I jumped right in, and immediately I actually felt like I was back 15 years ago. And I could see how companies and businesses and even individuals were going to experience this technology and go, wow, this is actually something different. And how do I implement this? How do I use this? And so that's how I kind of ended up going into AI, and very quickly, every keynote, every workshop, every boardroom I'm in, every podcast interview started becoming about AI. So
Yeah.
that's how I
Yeah.
am where I am.
Yeah, and it's I love that you brought up social media because that also was a revolution, right? So we have like you think about big revolutions, the internet, social media really changed marketing, and now you've got AI, and it really is changing our day-to-day lives, probably more than some of us realize that. And I'm trying to be more forward thinking. I don't know if I'm quite as far as you are, but I'd love to understand how are you because you're speaking a lot, you've got your workshops, your coaching. How are you helping people take those first few steps? Like, what is I don't know what to do with AI. It's overwhelming. Like, how do you get them started?
Yeah, so just like when I started my social media company, I'm doing quite a few things at the moment because I think we're all trying to figure out what does this technology mean for us personally, professionally, for humanity, and we grapple with a lot of those issues on the podcast that I host. But at the moment, I'm doing two main things. Interestingly, big corporates tend to be going for larger tech company solutions, and they're often doing their own custom tech builds, and they've got the budgets to do that. And they're grappling with issues around, do we replace our humans with this technology? Is it an and or an or is it a hybrid approach? And then we've got the early adopters, agile, ready to move small businesses, entrepreneurs, consultants, freelancers, people who can just immediately see the benefit and are chomping at the bit to look at how to really integrate this technology into what they do. And so that's where our online courses and community, because those people are ready to go and are desperate for information and knowledge and education on how to use this technology in responsible, ethical, but really practical ways. And then, funnily enough, everyone else in between is kind of frozen at the moment. You know, we've got probably 40 proposals out at the moment to more of that medium-sized business. And everyone, you know, is kind of trying to just navigate, what does this mean? Where do we start? Where's the natural point within the business to really start implementing? So I'm seeing sort of three categories, if you like, of how people are approaching it. But to break it down to the simple question of how do you get started, I used to say, and so much of what I say now is the same as what I said with social media. You can't break it. You know, there's a lot of people out there with a lot of smoke and mirrors making it a lot more complicated than it actually needs to be. Mm-hmm. And so for most people, it's about just testing some of the platforms. Each of the different AI tools have kind of got their own personality.
Yep.
They've got their own benefits. They've got their own strengths and weaknesses in some cases. And so it's really about getting in and getting on the tools and figuring out what that means in your own individual circumstances. But the first thing I did in my business, and I really suggest everybody do this, I spent about a month where we looked at every task, every role, every department, if you're a business that's large enough to have departments, every part of the business. And it started with me. I started every single thing I was doing in my day. How could I use AI to do this more productively, to a higher quality, and to increase my impact? And that is the place to start, because then you go, you know what? This is a repeatable task. I do it 10 times a week. How could AI help me here? And if you come at it from that perspective, you can really quickly see the return on investment. Yeah. Whereas a lot of people are getting, you know, shiny object syndrome, chasing after everything, spending hours a day trying to stay across the latest news. You know, just follow a couple of key people that have got, that actually share the stuff that moves the dial for your business. But I guess that's my advice on how to get started.
No, I think that's great. And it's true. There's so many new tools and this and that and upgrades, da, 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 da. It's just overwhelming. And I'm finding it overwhelming. Maybe could you give us an example of like how you created those first few steps or that list? Like, even that seems overwhelming to me. Like, how does somebody sit down? Can you use AI to even help me create the list of what can you automate and use AI for?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we've created a really cool custom GPT for our coaching clients that does the AI audit with them. So it gives them a framework to kind of follow and to it asks the right questions and then provides a roadmap on how to integrate and implement AI. But you can do that yourself. You don't need a custom GPT to do that. It's one of the things that a lot of people don't understand really about AI is you can take any problem to your favorite platform. I still think ChatGPT is the one platform that provides the best quality with the best functionality with the broadest use case. There are definitely ones that do elements better, but for 95% of the population, I would say ChatGPT is the place to start. Okay. And you can just have a conversation. So it's hi Chatty, or Chatty G as I call him on a good day. Hi, Chatty. I am currently trying to figure out the best places to use AI in my business. A typical day for me looks like I answer 20 emails. I'm on, 2 podcast interviews. I run 10 Zoom meetings, whatever your day looks like, and share that with ChatGPT.
Okay.
and then have a conversation. What do you need to know from me about my day to make the best recommendation of how I can use AI in my business? And it's
Yeah.
one of the greatest unlocks for AI is really using it as a thought partner, as a sounding board. But this is generative AI. These are large language models, and it's all about conversation.
Got it. Okay. Yeah, that's great. And do you recommend that people upgrade? Can you do this with the free version or should they be paying for it?
Look, you can absolutely do a lot with the free version. Anyone in my community knows that I repeatedly say, if you are still on the free version, you're not serious about AI. So the $20 US a month, it's a lot more for us with the conversion rate at the moment with the US.
Okay.
$20 US a month is an absolute no-brainer for one thing and one thing alone. There's a ton of other stuff that makes it a no-brainer, but being able to build your own custom GPTs, which are
Mm-hmm.
like these highly trained little assistants that bring an extra dimension or an extra level of knowledge and expertise to whatever it is that you're working on, that in and of itself makes the $20 US a month an absolute
Yeah.
no-brainer.
I absolutely agree. I'm flabbergasted by people who argue about $20. And it's month to month. If you don't like it, you can cancel it. Um,
Absolutely. I make it a prerequisite for our coaching program. I say, I
okay.
want you to sign up for 1 month. And we build a whole team of custom GPTs in our coaching program. So they leave with a
Yeah.
dream team of custom
My
GPTs.
gosh.
And I
I
haven't heard of anybody who has then cancelled their subscription
I
after
bet
that.
not. I bet
But
not.
once you drink the Kool-Aid, once you experience what it can do for you, it is just a no-brainer. There is no going back.
For my audience, maybe could you explain a little bit like what is a custom GPT and what's the advantage of building a custom GPT?
Yeah, sure. So when we go and use ChatGPT just in the normal interface, ChatGPT is accessing its vast database of knowledge. And that's pretty incredible. I think we all still remember our first ChatGPT moment where we saw the cursor dancing across the screen and just went,
Yeah,
this
you're
is
like,
this is different. This is something worth paying attention to. And that even just in terms of increasing your productivity and being able to do things better, more quickly, increase your impact, all of those things. What a custom GPT does, if you train it properly, is that you can then have AI that is highly aligned to you as the business professional, as the business owner, whatever your role is. So it's highly attuned to you. I have a lot of people in my community who are neurodiverse who find that if they actually take the time for AI to understand who they are, it starts working with them in a way that their brain actually works. And it's a huge
huh.
unlock for them in business. So, first, aligning AI to you. Then it's about aligning AI to your business. So, it's not just talking about any business strategy, it's talking about strategy just for your unique business. The structure, the mission, the vision, the values, the products, the services, highly aligned to your business. But then the magic is when it's also highly aligned to your target audience. And
Mm,
so when you put those three things together in a custom GPT, you get about 50% of the magic I'm talking about. And then the final step is to train it on whatever the task is. So just to
okay.
break that down a little bit more, a custom GPT is just like a little ring-fenced version of ChatGPT that has access to that vast database of knowledge
Hmm.
and is highly trained and aligned to you, your business, your audience, and trained on the task that's at hand. And it sounds complicated, but it is literally
Yes.
opening up a custom GPT within ChatGPT,
Huh.
putting in some custom instructions, uploading, and the instructions are telling the GPT how you want it to behave. So
Hmm.
this is your role. We tend to follow what I call a SNAP formula. So it's setting
Okay.
the role,
All right.
naming the task, and then going into more detail about the output. So how do you want it to behave? And then we upload documents or data, which can be PDFs, Word, Excel spreadsheets, but uploading data that it can then draw on to give you that highly aligned
Got
output.
it. And the data, is that like your, I guess, information on your company, your target audience? What kind of data are you
Yes.
feeding?
So when we do the process in our coaching program, we actually have 10 foundation documents that we build. And that
Hmm.
is about you as the professional, about your business, market trends, SWOT analysis, competitor analysis, portfolio of products and services, a business strategy, a customer journey map, a brand voice. So there's kind of a suite of documents that we create that
Okay.
we use to then train these custom
Ah.
GPTs. And then what we also do is do some pretty deep research. So let's say you've got an email sequence GPT. You
Mm-hmm.
want to train it in your brand voice. You want to train it on who your audience is. You want to train it on the pain points that your audience faces. And then you might want to train it on best practice in email deliverability and writing styles. You might have a amazing copywriter that you admire their work. You can train the
Right.
GPT to write in that style. And so then rather than you just going to chat GPT and saying, write me a 4-part email sequence about our new membership offering,
Right.
what it's going to do is write you a 4-part sequence that is all about your business, that speaks in the language of your target audience, that talks to their pain points, and that writes in the style of your, most admired copywriter.
Oh my
You can
gosh.
imagine then the output is going to be completely different.
Yeah.
Just asking ChatGPT to write you a 4-part email sequence.
Yeah. God, it's so crazy. And then you had mentioned through your coaching program that you guys actually help your clients build a team. So there's I'm assuming like an email GPT, maybe a strategy
Website
team.
copy.
Okay. Oh
So
my
it's
gosh.
different. It's different for every business. Some of the ones that I have, and I joke that I need an HR manager to manage my team of custom GPTs now. And it's a funny joke, but it's one of the most in-demand roles that we will see over the next few years is
Hmm.
these AI orchestrators or AI managers who are actually able to manage teams of AI agents. That's coming really soon.
Okay. What? That blows my mind. What?
We can come back to that. But some of the custom GPTs that I've got, so website copy, creating high impact SEO optimized and now AEO optimized, making sure your content gets surfaced by AI, not just SEO and search.
Yep.
And so anything that my team does on our website goes through this custom GPT so that it's speaking in my voice, it's SEO optimized, it's AEO optimized, and it fits the criteria. Then we have one for our Facebook group, we have one for LinkedIn, so we've got the different social media platforms. I have one that's highly trained for my podcast, and all I need to do is press a button. I put in the name of my podcast guest, I put in their bio, and it knows the kind of questions that I ask. And so it will create 5 to 7 questions. And 95%, I'd say now, of my guests say they're the best, most personalized questions they've ever been asked on podcast. And it's because I'm creating highly aligned output from that custom GPT. And then I go back and I put the transcript in. It then creates the intro for my podcast, which I then record. It creates the show notes. So that really helps me, along with the people that help me do the doing of the editing, that it really helps me with our podcast. What other ones have we got? Oh, we've got every course that I run, every workshop that I run. I actually create a custom GPT that I do 2 things here. One, it helps me create all the promotional material, all the email sequences, all the onboarding, and sometimes even the content outlines. But
Okay.
what I also do is I create a custom GPT that people who do that course can use. And so it steps them through piece by piece by piece on how to go through the workshop. And that's really cool. They're in fact, if people want to try one, there's a video that I have on YouTube called How to Train a Flux Laura, which is creating your own AI photo shoot. And
Yeah.
you might want to link to that because there's a custom GPT that steps people through that process. So they can watch a video and it links to a custom GPT that actually
Oh my
steps them
gosh.
through. So that's another
Okay.
cool use case. I've got
I love
hundreds of them.
that. All right. Well, we'll definitely link to that. Oh my gosh, so much good info. I think it's interesting because now you're talking about just taking what your course is to this whole new level because you can't be there for every single person, right? Answering all the questions. But now, if they can have a custom GPT, at least fill that gap until they get a chance to talk to you or do something with you, that's amazing. And I think there's so much more value.
And even think about how you might work with your team or a VA or somebody that helps you do what you do. If you train a custom GPT in your style and how you do things, then they can work with the custom GPT to get things to a much better quality before you even see it. And that's something that's been a real unlock for me in my business is with my team being able to have a custom GPT for each task means that they can be a mini me without me make that really happen at a deeper level.
That is interesting. And as far as your team, how are you getting them on board? So you're creating these custom GPTs. Are they also doing this? Are they also creating GPTs and using AI?
Well, at the moment, my team are contractors and a couple of VAs. And so I get them to do my courses so they understand how to use AI properly. And
Love
then
it.
the custom GPTs, like they're just highly trained. It's literally push a button. So create an SEO optimized blog post and ChatGPT asks the questions, what's the topic? Here are 10 potential headlines that you could choose. I choose number 3 because that has a score of 9 out of 10. Like it's that detailed that it
Wow.
literally steps them through the process in
Got
a
it.
way that is I have found almost impossible to train people in.
Hmm.
And this isn't replacing people, it's
Right.
supporting them to do the very best job that they can do using all the knowledge that I have. And so that's where, if you do that audit in your business of thinking about all those tasks that are repeatable, whether it's you doing them yourself or doing them with a team, how do you convey that and put that into a structure that AI can follow so that
Yep.
it really increases productivity, increases impact?
Okay. Yeah, wow, you just kind of got me thinking too. Like every time a new team member comes on and we're working with a new vendor, how do we, yeah, better communicate those things I feel like I'm always saying over and over. I'm like, why does it not stick?
Well, and that's where I would suggest to you that you invest some time in documenting that and training a GPT to do that for you. Because then the kind of questions that you get, the final 10% of questions you actually need to be answering as opposed to, how do I spell your business name?
Yeah.
Yeah. And I say that because someone's just spelt it wrong in a whole lot of promotional material. So that one was front of mind for me.
Oh, yeah. Well, I get that, or your name, but I can't
Yeah.
say it right now. So you brought up something, and as I've been talking more and more to other business owners and marketers, there is this real sense of fear of like AI is going to take over for me. I don't want to use AI because if I, document and use it too well, it's going to take over my job. What do you say to business owners or marketers about that?
Yeah, I'll put it just in a little bit of context. It's why I started my podcast, The AI Grapple, because
Okay.
everyone's grappling with these issues of what does AI mean for us personally, professionally, and for humanity? And every boardroom I was in, every workshop I run for small businesses, every keynote I was giving, we were going down these rabbit holes where people were bringing up all of these fears around AI. And in my experience, if you can't get over those fears, you actually can't see and embrace the opportunity. So it's really important that people have got a space or the ability to reflect on what AI means for them at all of those levels. So having said that, I just put that in context because I love the podcast conversations that I have because I get to grapple with some of those bigger issues. But there's a lot of marketing tech most of them are men, tech evangelists who are literally saying, get on board or die. And I think it's a really inhumane way of approaching what is probably going to be the biggest upheaval and transition that we see in our lifetime.
Right.
Mind you, you've got to be careful about saying that nowadays because who knows what's coming.
True.
I get surprised every day. But I think, we have a very human centered, ethical, responsible approach to AI. There is absolutely no doubt that a lot of jobs will be lost to AI. I interviewed someone recently. It was a very hard hitting interview, a voiceover artist who has just completely been replaced by AI. So there are absolutely jobs already, call center operators. There are roles and jobs already that are being completely replaced by AI. There will be a lot of new jobs created out of AI in the short to medium term.
Hmm.
But whether the same people that lose their jobs are the people that will be able to do those jobs, it's probably not an equal fit. And
Yeah.
so when people say to me, and there's some flawed thinking in there, right? A lot of businesses are still approaching it like, well, if my staff use AI, they're cheating. I'm paying them to do their job. I want them to do the job.
Right.
And I
Yep.
think that's a flawed concept. But everything we talk about is how can you not just replace or outsource jobs to AI, but how can you really bring all of your wisdom, all of your experience, and then really use AI to do things you wouldn't have been able to do otherwise, to do more of what you already do, or to do it to a much better quality than you might have been able to do otherwise. And so there aren't easy answers here. This is why we're all grappling with this. But
Yeah.
my advice to people, particularly freelancers, marketers, small business owners, consultants, is really look at how can you bring the absolute best of who you are and what you know and what you do, and then put AI into that and do that better.
Yeah.
And those that put their head in the sand, it's going to be a really rocky road because AI is here. It is not going anywhere. And it's a bit of a glib statement that I keep people, hearing people say, but you won't be replaced by AI. You'll be replaced by people who are using AI. But there's some truth to that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I love the name of your podcast, The Grappling, because I think we are all grappling with it. And as a marketer, I would say there was a little bit of fear last year when chat came out. And I do hear a lot, oh, well, I can just use chat to write my emails now or my social media posts. And I'm like, yeah, but they're still crap. And so we really made a decision last year. We're going to be AI forward. I may be dragging some of my team members along, but I want to be, yes, I believe, yeah, what you said is I want to be part of those people that are using AI to grow and develop and figure things out. And it's not perfect. And one thing I do feel like if you use AI, you realize how much it does still need us as humans to be a part of this process, to be building out whether it is social media posts or emails, in the case of what my agency does, or creating, better workflows for your operations. I know I've got clients in the financial field, bookkeeping, things like that, that just you would never have ever let a technology like AI touch. With the lack of talent, there definitely are areas I think that it'll grow and there'll be opportunities for people.
And I think in what you've just said there, something that I would say to marketers in particular is don't underestimate the backlash that is going to happen around AI. And so there's a lot of companies right now that are just pumping out AI generated content. And you can tell, once you see it, you can't unsee it. We're starting to see the same sentence structures as you delve into the ever evolving blah, 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 blah.
Yep.
And a ton of companies are replacing people using AI, which is often diminishing the customer experience. And when you think about the portion of the population that may potentially lose their job or lose part of their job to AI, they're not going to want to be engaging with services and brands that are really obviously AI driven. So I think as marketers, we have an opportunity and a responsibility to ensure that whatever it is that we're using AI for is ethical, is responsible, is of good quality. And those companies, those brands, those marketers will survive through this time because you'll be in high demand.
Yeah.
Knowing how to use AI, but to do that in a way that closely guards a brand voice and a brand image is going to be a really necessary skill set through the next, it's going to be bumpy. I'm not
Yeah.
doom and gloom, but I'm very realistic about what's coming. And a lot of companies are going to get it really wrong. So if
Yeah.
you're a marketer who knows how to use this technology in a really productive but human-centered, ethical, responsible way, I think you'll do okay over the next few years.
Yeah. Yeah. I appreciate that because I do think a lot of people are jumping on, but they're not really thinking about the consequences or how they're using it. Along those lines, do you have some advice on to our marketers out there? Like, how do you approach AI ethically? How can we be better about what we're producing and how we're producing it for ourselves and our clients?
Yeah, so I think the first thing is just being transparent. And, it kills me when I see on social media people pretending that something's real when it's not. And it's really obvious that it's not. And unfortunately, the default mechanism right now is distrust. People no longer know whether what they're seeing, hearing, reading, sometimes even experiencing, whether it's real or not. And
Yeah.
so look for the ways that you can ensure that your content, you can feel when something is human. And I think, it's a time, I don't want to be oomy goomy woo woo, but there's an energy that gets conveyed with content. That's why, I've been so passionate about hyper personalization for so many years. When people read your content, they feel like it's written directly to them. That's an art in marketing. And you would know with emails. And if you can speak directly to the challenges that people are facing, they feel connected to you. And so, not in any way to scam the system or game the system, but just be genuine. Don't
Yeah.
pretend that an AI avatar with your voice is you if it's not.
Yeah.
I think the brands that innovate and embrace this technology, but do it in a transparent way, their audience are like, oh, they're using an AI avatar, but they've told me that it's that. They don't
Right.
feel duped or ripped off.
Yes. Yeah.
I think the other thing I would say is if you're replacing any part of your business with automation or with an AI response, so I'm thinking chatbots,
Mhm.
phone support that is being managed or done by AI, where's the parachute? Where's the cord that people can pull to get in contact with a human when they want to?
Yeah.
Nothing drives me more crazy, and I know I'm not alone, than getting stuck in these automated loops
Yes.
and you can say, they don't always like the Aussie accent, let me speak to a person. And the
Yeah.
more and more agitated
I
you get,
know.
the less it wants to help you.
Representative.
Yeah, so where's the escape chute? Give people, because automation's fantastic to give people what they want immediately while you're asleep. I would much rather get an immediate answer if it's simple enough and it's the right answer. But
Yeah.
if it's not, or it doesn't address my needs, how do I connect with a human being? And I think they're probably the two things that marketers really need to stay focused on is that transparency, being authentic, being human, and giving people access to a human when they want it.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I think I love that. You're right. And, one of the things that we've always in our marketing, we help businesses create content. Now we're very transparent. We're using AI tools, we're automating some of our processes. This is how we're doing it. But we always use the same formula, and that's the storytelling aspect. What's your story? Let's use some real life examples of you and your clients and what you're doing, and that'll always win. And I try to do the same. And, sometimes our posts, I was reading one today, my social media manager was working at, she took my personal picture. I gave her a little bit of story, and it turns out mostly good, but there's, some stuff in there. And I'm realizing, maybe it's time to like pull back on some of that AI generated content, but it
And I'm
is,
not saying you can't use AI generated images or
yeah,
that you have to say this was created by AI. Because if you're
right.
creating an image of a kitten on a front lawn, does it matter to anyone whether it's real or not real? Like in that situation, it doesn't. But it's
Yeah.
more around just not pretending
It's
to
real.
be
Yeah.
something that it's not. And people are going to have to navigate that journey themselves and figure out that pathway. And unfortunately, I think we're going to see a lot get it wrong. And, there are particular, not to get too much into the geopolitical aspects of AI,
Okay.
but there are particular world leaders at the moment who are talking a lot about AI. And that's great for tech companies and those of us working in AI, but unfortunately, the rest of what they're talking about is probably tainting the AI conversation.
Right.
Probably can read between the lines of what I'm saying without getting too political. But I think, as humanity and society, that we're going to see some pendulum swinging. Everyone embracing, not wanting to use it, loving it,
Yeah.
hating it. And it's going to take some time to kind of find the middle ground and allow the dust to settle.
Yes, absolutely. Well, the good thing is they've got people like you out there fighting the good fight to help educate us and train our teams. Maybe just kind of a last note before I let you go, so I know you're super busy, is what would you say is your best advice for companies out there, especially marketers like me? What can we be thinking about in the next, couple of weeks and months should we be doing and thinking about when it comes to AI?
Yeah, look, the biggest shift that we're going to see this year is autonomous AI agents. And so historically, we've had robotics, we've had AI, we've had automation. There've been three quite separate areas of capability, of research, of development. And now those three things are coming together. And now I probably need to start adding in the fourth, which is quantum computing, which is a whole nother
Right.
mind-blowing topic. But automation, where we string together multiple tasks using an API. So the kindergarten version of that is that, you can access a lot of tech platforms through the back door using an API, and we can string
Mhm.
tasks together. The
Yep.
big shift that a lot of people are not talking about is this shift of autonomous agents where it's computer user access. And so these agents can actually log into Gmail as you, log into Facebook as you, log into
Mm.
Canva as you, and can do multi-step tasks just with a simple voice prompt. Now, that technology already exists. It's only at about 20 to 30% accuracy. So it's not something you want to be putting into your business right now. But
Yeah.
it's coming and it's advancing quickly. And so, what I'm saying to most businesses at the moment is now is not the time to go deep on big investments around any particular kind of tech or even buying annual subscriptions now. I'm a bit kind of, oh, just wait and see what the tech stack's going to look like in the next 6 to 12 months. But now, what everybody needs to be focused on is education. And if you have a team, the culture that will be required in your business to navigate this time. And that's the conversation I'm having with large businesses is how are you going to approach this? How are you going to educate your team so that as this technology comes down the line faster and faster and faster, that you're
Right.
ready to make really informed decisions about how you want to use the technology. And
Yeah.
that really is from smaller businesses right through to large businesses, but educating yourself in a way that doesn't overwhelm you and that doesn't leave you rocking under a table is where I would be putting the focus right now.
Okay. Yeah, I appreciate that. And we are also ourselves kind of delving a little bit in how to use APIs and also automate processes and use different AI tools or systems to reach out. And it's interesting. I don't know what to call it. I don't know exactly
Well,
where to
that's
go.
automation. And automation's actually been around for a long time, but now, and it always used to be, Zapier has been
Yep.
around for a long time, but now there are competitors that are really easy to use, like
Yep.
make.com. And
Yep.
so you can build these automations. And for some people, it makes sense to be building that right now. But for a lot, I say, don't even go there yet, because
Yeah.
what's coming is going to replace that. And you won't need the complex automation. It'll actually be done in a much more intuitive and much easier way.
Yeah, interesting. Well, much appreciated. And that's good advice. I like it. Well, Kate, if somebody wants to get a hold of you, take one of your workshops, what's the best way for them to do that?
Yeah, look, the best place to get immediate value is to join our AI Success Lab Facebook group. We share all the kind of breaking news that moves the dial for your business in there. We do pop-up trainings. There's a lot of, people can ask questions, and there's a lot of great resource in there. Obviously, people can connect with me on LinkedIn, or if they'd like a customized AI strategy that talks more to their role and their industry and what's possible, we have a great AI-driven free strategy on our website, which is aisuccessstrategy.com. And you can just put in your role and your industry, and it will give you some really great ways to get started that are focused in on where it is that you're working. And we've got free guides on our website. There's a ton of free stuff available for people, but our community is a great way to kind of unlock and access all of those.
Awesome. Well, I plan on joining, so I appreciate that. And thank you
Look forward
again,
to having
Kate.
you there.
Yeah, this was a great conversation. I will definitely want to have you back maybe in a few months, and we'll see where we're at with all of this.
It's going to be a wild ride. Buckle up.
All right, here we go. Thank you. And for our audience, as I said, we are changing a lot of things up, having more guests like Kate on the show. We're going to be talking more about AI and how to grow your business. And for all our marketers out there, we're going to try to stay on top of things so that we can learn together. All right, thank you and have a wonderful day.
Feeling overwhelmed by AI? You're not alone, and you don't have to figure it out on your own. We're here to help. We can make AI work for you. Give us a call at 858-848-7325.